Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over on the YouTube account and it is time for the Abyssal Expedition. That is right, in today's video we're going to be looking at the guide of the bosses and the builds that we're looking for the Abyssal Expedition. So let's hop over and take a look at it. All right guys, so here we have the AE guide. Big shout out to Ciro and the AE comps on here. Now definitely check out his YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Ciro_GT. Definitely look at it and check out some of his videos. So let's run through this and you can see he also did some of the weaknesses in here, which is really cool. So looking at the season 2 ranked teams, no weakness, just kind of run through this at kind of a higher level overview. So overall, what we've noticed is that collections are just kind of broken versus players that have collections, players that don't have collections, and also what you have specifically built for the collections, which of course, when it comes to the variation of the teams we have in here, it is just kind of asinine that there are so many different stipulations and so many different things that we see. But looking in here, this of course is the stable comp. So it is the awakened version of Belinda. We have Demia in here with Palmer, Lavatoon, and Rosaline. So essentially in here, you do have 4 buffers that are all buffing up that awakened version of Belinda. Also do have Panda in here who is going to provide some of his bamboo shoots and his buffs. But overall, you can see around 36 billion out of this formation, which again, very heavily reliant on the collections, especially when it comes to Demia and staying alive for this formation. So looking at the slow burn, this is actually using Eugene. So pretty interesting here with Eugene and of course with Grez in here still being used a little bit. Now also in here, we do have Leica and you see the awakened version of Solus and the twins to really complete and go and do that super cycle. And you'll notice here 16 billion on this one. Sloppy seconds, which is pretty funny. 10 billion on this one. So we have Rem in there, and it is the awakened version of Sophia. Now, of course, there are a lot of different ults that you can put in here, depending on where you are and depending on what the weakness is with the hero in here. Now, look at the GOAT right here. Now, Tricia, of course, when we get into this season, has worked incredibly well. She is actually one of the ones that have put out a considerable amount of damage. And even looking at the few right here, 17 billion, 16 billion, 16 billion. Then, of course, the real doll, which is Liberta. Now, of course, if you're running Liberta in here with Lucilla, works incredibly well. We have the awakened version of Athalia, and then the dancers are in here. Now, for a majority of players, they probably don't have the dancers built, especially with that plus 40 signature item. So that is going to be a substitution. That is going to have to be made within there. And then Zolrath sucks, which is pretty funny because it is Zolrath. Again, this is kind of an earlier team that we've seen. We have Athiel in here. And then we also do have Jerome with the awakened version of Thane. And overall, when you look at the multitude of teams that you can have in here, really saving that very first one, that awakened version of Belinda, to go ahead and be your damage dealing team that you're not going to use any of the stamina unless it is on the boss comps really at all. Now looking again at some of the weekend comps, you can see variations change up a little bit depending on the weekend. We have Gavus in here that is making a debut in these formations. And then of course, Demia kind of swaps to a different team, which was the real doll. You can see kind of depending on the weakness of right here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. Right here, there is some variation. And again, depending on what the boss has and what the boss is being weakened with, there are going to be some variations in here. Now looking again, alternate ranks and alts in here, guys, are kind of crazy when you get through here. Now the big thing with this to remember with the Abyssal Expedition is depending what heroes you have is really dependent on what you can build and what you can run within the Abyssal Expedition. Now, of course, if you're a player that has every single hero built and really built out to their maximum capacity, going to make a really big difference. But if you're running alternate comps, this is the place to really go through here and really key in and hone in on exactly what boss comps you're going to be running within these formations so you know exactly what it is. Because even looking here like Rem with Grez in here, this is a very, very strong one. Mortis as a buffer. We have Twins as a buffer. Very strong again, and a lot of players do have that built. Now, of course, if you don't have Solus built, you could look down here at running the awakened version of Sophia. And then, of course, if you're missing Grez, you could go put Joan in there. We have Damon in here, Hodgkin as a buffer. We have the boss killer right there, Saurus. So you could go through, and the point of this guide is really, in my opinion, is getting the highest team comp that you can. So for instance, right here with this awakened version of Belinda, again, this is kind of an alt comp, but if you can build this one, when you have those heroes kind of built up a little bit, this is the first team that you're going to kind of prioritize and then kind of working your way down from there. You have 16 billion, 15, 15, a couple of 15s, a couple of 14s in there. So again, thinking of the heroes that you have and the formations that you're going to be running will really ensure that you're doing a lot of damage for these boss modes, which of course is going to make a big difference. Now, for a lot of players, including my free-to-play account, you can go through here, kind of match up, again, what you can within the formations. If you're not going competitive, if you're not going all out to try to get some frames, overall, you can kind of put whatever you want in here that is kind of going to work together, going to have some synergy. And then, of course, they have the weakened formation alts, which do change it up a little bit. You can see even Jerome coming in here. We have Lavatune in here and Palmer in here. So again, a little bit of a difference where again, Demia is dropping out to a different formation to try to keep Liberta and Trishea alive. Now, of course, this is a very strong team we've seen is the combination of running Liberta with Lucilla and then running Demia with Trishea in there has worked incredibly well. Now, one of the standout ones was right here with that original version of Baden. Now, we've actually seen him in a couple different comps. You can see Ivan making an appearance as well as Nevi, because of course, Nevi and Baden go together incredibly well. Nevi will actually buff up Baden's shadows that he does have in there, making a big difference. And then, of course, Tamaris in here makes a big difference as well, because ultimately that is going to be a crowd control, but ultimately it is going to be a buffer within these team formations that do work incredibly well. And you'll also notice that a majority of the teams that we have in here are very, very dependent pretty much on about 25 to 30 core heroes that, again, if you don't have them built up, depending on the heroes you have built, will make a big difference in here. Now, coming down here and looking these, the Belinda requires the level 3 captive wings. This is the first one. This is the Mahira, and a lot of messing with gear, engraving, furniture, collection, signature to really make it work, which is insane how much time and effort is going to go in here. Collections have a tuning and an optimization teams, which is a nightmare. Definitely agree with Ciro wholeheartedly on the nightmare of what we're seeing with the collections. Don't stress, run what you have. That is really the big thing, guys. And then, of course, don't forget, these are really the strong ones, level 3. And then, of course, the level 2 down here, which are not only going to be the carry, but some of these at a level 3, especially when you look at like Saurus or Rowan, or even looking at those Mahiro wings, does make a really big difference with either keeping the heroes alive for the survivability aspect or having them die out in formations pretty quick. So overall, an absolute amazing guide, and you can see just how much time and effort goes into this. And again, a big shout out to Ciro for doing these guys. It's awesome. I'm going to put a link down below because as we start the Abyssal Expedition, right now we're about an hour, a little less than an hour in from when I'm creating this video, which means you're going to have to go in here, figure out exactly what formations are going to work, which ones you're going to be running with. That way you already have it prepped and you know what is already coming down the pipeline when it comes to building out this heroes. All right, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the guide and, of course, the Abyssal Expedition. And as always, thank you guys for watching.